Do you ever feel like you're not where you're supposed to be in life? At 28, I thought I'd be chipping away at a mortgage instead of needing to complete 3 forms to get permission to hang a picture on my wall. I thought I'd be married to the one instead of swiping through increasingly sketchy dating apps. And I thought I'd have a kid, or at least a bitter custody dispute over them. Forget a kid, I can't even keep a succulent alive. Instead, I'm in a supermarket, ripping toilet paper from the grasping hands of boomers. Like many of us that weekend, I was meltdown, freak out, panic shopping. Word was out that the coronavirus social distancing rules were going to come in on Monday. Of course, I'd left a grocery shop until Sunday night, but if I was going to be imprisoned in my house for indefinite months, it was going to be with all the honey soy tofu I could jam into the fridge. I won't say I pushed anyone over exactly, but I did snatch the Toblerones from someone's unguarded trolley and I don't regret it. It's the quick and the dead out there, my friends. I was just about to flee the shop with my booty when I saw the photo frame. It was a sleek, black plastic frame and had a photo insert of a prancing puppy with floppy ears and wet eyes. The shelf had been plundered, so it was the only photo frame left in the store, perhaps in all of Canberra. I didn't need a photo frame. Like everyone else born after 1990, I keep photos on my phone. But if shoppers were hoarding photo frames like they were instant noodles, perhaps they had a mysterious, talismanic power vital for surviving the COVID apocalypse. So I chucked it in my trolley, right on top of the quilt in triple length. When I got home, I popped the top off a wine bottle for a pre-lockdown last hurrah. That was when Mum rang to check I had food and probe my romantic life. I wasn't going to volunteer that I'd given the latest boyfriend marching orders, but Mum could sense that I was once again a desperate single woman with no viable hope of future happiness. "Susan," she warned me, "there's no such thing as the perfect man." Good luck finding any man right now, let alone the perfect one. Like the footy, romance is postponed indefinitely. I now found myself in the dumps, and one bottle became 2. I pondered the ghosts of hotties past. The wannabe painter with the inability to commit. The tennis-obsessed mansplainer. The soy-distant woke feminist with foul breath. I wondered what shape my perfect man would take. And I resolved to build my Frankenstud. Chomping on Toblerone triangles for fuel, I scoured Google Images for raw material. Chris Hemsworth as the full-bodied base. A little Colin Farrell for zesty tang. Tom Hiddleston for fruity notes. And Colin Firth for that soft finish. I used the photo apps to blend, fuse, and stitch dozens of images in a frenzy of artistic inspiration and horny desperation. I invoked the spirits of Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and Gianni Versace. I became the Beethoven of keyboard thumbs and mouse clicks as I tuned my soft boy Adonis. Finally, my opus was finished, and peak masculinity gazed at me from my computer monitor. Of course, I flung off my jeans and got out the vibrator. Satisfied, I remembered the photo frame I'd bought at the supermarket. I decided that my creation would be my companion for the duration of quarantine. Perhaps the frame photo would become the center of a shrine of condoms, GQ magazines, and World of Warcraft 1-month free trials. Through the eldritch covenant that is wireless printing, my deck jet summoned my boyfriend to be from the cloud, like the swirling smoke of a lamp taking shape as a genie. I slipped the photo into the frame over the picture of the dog. In a wistful moment, I planted a kiss on the photo. "Good night, Hottie McCodface," I whispered to it. "May you be less disappointing than other men." Now dazed by the 2 bottles of wine and this flurry of manic activity, I plopped down on the bed and conked out. I woke up the next morning in a tangle of bedsheets. My phone began to buzz, but it would have to wait until I poured a jug of water down my gullet. On my way to the bathroom, I tripped on my discarded jeans and I landed face down in shredded silver foil, chocolate fragments, and abandoned dignity. Armed with resuscitating coffee and swaddled in my fluffy dressing gown, I snuggled into my desk chair and checked my phone. Weirdly, there was a Tinder match notification. As far as I knew, my Tinder account was deactivated, but this wouldn't have been the first time I'd had a swipe binge while blackout drunk. But the quarantine rules had kicked in while I was in a drunken stupor, so sneaky post-work drinks at Kokomo's were not on the playlist. If I was bunkered in, I'd have to let this guy down. But when I opened the app, I was stunned. It was him. The man I'd created last night. The same limpid eyes, the same gentle curl to his hair, the same wide shoulders and tapered physique of a bulldog paperclip. In most of his photos, he was eating fruit salad or chopping vegetables. In one photo, he was pouring water over his head and the sparkling droplets slid into every contour and crevice of his shirtless torso. And in his last photo, he was giving a cheeky grin and holding an extra-large packet of toilet paper. Not the most subtle Tinder profile, but as they say, game recognizes game. His name was Max. In daylight, I saw my Photoshop was not the artistic masterpiece I'd imagined. My retouch skills would give a fashion magazine editor the shakes, and I'd gotten a little over-enthusiastic with the lens flare. But, unmistakably, my photo was of this guy on Tinder. The perfect man doesn't exist? Suck it, mum. I shot the first message, hey. The reply came instantly, hey. I asked him how dating was working out for him in the age of COVID. He told me he'd only just started using Tinder and I was the only person he'd swiped for. He thought I seemed cool. He wanted to meet up, maybe get a coffee. I was not willing to let Max, age 32, 17 kilometers away, slip through my fingers. So I did a hasty Google for a Canberra social isolation loophole. Shopping for food together was an option, but not an ideal choice for a first date unless he was keen for a fusion of scavenger hunt and obstacle course. Exercise was allowed, so I suggested the two of us go for an early morning run around Lake Burley Griffin the next day, maintaining a respectful 2-meter distance so as to not alarm the authorities. He was down for that. The next morning, I squeezed into my flirtiest activewear and camped for him on the National Capital Exhibition Hill. I was hungry to know if this random guy from Tinder really would be the stud I glimpsed through my rosé goggles. He arrived perfectly on time, striding to me on long legs. His black V-neck and running shorts were so tight they could have been tattooed on. His face was a truce between rugged and sensitive, accurate to my photo, down to even the left ear, which I ripped from a screenshot of Colin Farrell in Dumbo. And he was overjoyed to see me, like he was a soldier returning to his sweetheart after weary years in the trenches. And he had a present for me in his arms. Toilet paper. And not just any toilet paper. Quilton, sheer, butter, 4-ply, the toilet paper only the gods know. We stashed this bounty in the boot of my car and then set off on a lap of the Lake Central Loop. I had him take the lead, both a savvy decision and a horrible mistake. This was a good call because I had a 25-minute audience with his bouncing tush. But it was a bad decision because Max was a gazelle that had taken human shape. As far as I could tell, he didn't even sweat. I struggled to just keep up, and the wine the night before didn't help. In a burst of pettiness, when we were close to finishing our loop, I shot past him to claim the faster finish time. He took my overwhelming victory with grace, which was definitely a point in his favour. I asked him back to my place for day drinking and munchies. He said he didn't drive out here, so we got in my car. And when we got to my flat, I hid the photo frame in the drawer, just in case having a framed photo of a first date gave off too much of a serial killer vibe. We sat on the balcony and I blabbed on about my life. He was a patient listener, a nice change from the patronising sermons I was used to from my dates. And of course, he was easy on the eyes. My pitter-patter of arm touches escalated to an earlobe nibble and a whispered invitation. Undressing him, I understood why colonizers love to give places saucy lady names like Virginia or Savannah. Some craggy territories are hewed for patient mapping, preferably with the tongue. I went full Sigourney Weaver in Ghostbusters on the lad. There was no Susan, only Zool. As a warm-up, I got him to hang his head off the bed while I sat on him. After that, I had him lift me into the wheelbarrow and he held me without flinching. And to finish up, I made him slow right down until instinct took over and we drifted together on an endless sea. After, we called in Chinese and cuddled on the couch to watch The Good Wife. The first week was great. We did fun couple activities like shopping for hand sanitizer. The best thing about being in a relationship might be having someone else to push the shopping trolley while you take on an executive decision-making role. In bed, he was a bit passive, but he took direction like a champ. I kicked him out to wander the streets on work-from-home days when I had editing gigs, but essentially he moved in, doing the washing up, letting me pick our Netflix shows. But after a while, I began to see some cracks. Whenever I asked him about his life, he would get vague and laugh it off. Like he wouldn't tell me about his parents, his work, or even where he lived. And even though he was always groomed and spotless, in an entire week he hadn't changed his outfit. To be fair, we didn't wear clothes much, but when we did, he was wearing the same V-neck and running shorts. I also began to feel some fatigue in bed. As a lover, he was more conscientious than passionate. I asked him one night for a tongue bath, and he began to lick my leg with the methodical approach of a man mowing a lawn. I told him to stop before we got to the knee and I had to wipe my thigh down with a towel. At first, I reasoned he was just the quiet type that was clumsy with words but had a romantic heart. Then I began to wonder if he was cagey all the time because he had another woman hidden somewhere, maybe even a wife. But he was at my place so much, it didn't really leave time for a double life. The truth was sneaking up on me. My boyfriend wasn't quiet. My boyfriend wasn't keeping a secret. Was my boyfriend just dumb? I resolved to put him to the test. To begin, I started up a new jigsaw. We'd done one together before, but I'd done all the work. This time, I would not place a single piece and see how far he got on his own. I emptied the box on the table in front of us and waited for him to get to work. He made no action to sort or arrange the pieces. I gave him an elbow nudge and hinted that the edge is always a good place to start. He looked at me with innocence and told me that all the pieces had edges. We abandoned the jigsaw. Next, I got him to help change the curtains. I playfully tossed one of them over him, taunting him to escape and chase me like it was a sexy game. He struggled under that curtain for a good minute. Then he stopped struggling and asked me to take it off. I waited thinking that he should be able to easily toss it off. He began to plead with me to take it off. Defeated, I dragged it away. Twice thwarted, I decided to give him an easy test. Something so simple, a baby can usually do it at 6 months. I asked him if he wanted some chocolate. He said yes. I broke off a piece of chocolate and held it in front of his face. I asked him if he could see the chocolate. He said he could. I put the chocolate on the dining table and covered it with a coffee cup. I asked him where the chocolate was now. He said he didn't know. I asked him again, getting impatient, where the chocolate was. He insisted that he didn't know where the chocolate was. And before I know it, I am shouting at him over and over, "Where's the chocolate?" and pointing at the coffee cup and slamming the table, and he is sobbing and yelling, "I don't know, I don't know." I lifted the coffee cup. His face lit up. He pointed at the chocolate and said, "The chocolate's there." My boyfriend had failed an object permanence test. I asked him to go, and he left. The shopping is quiet now. The hunt for pasta and tinned food is over, and we all go through silent shops, keeping a wary distance from each other like timid dominoes. No cocktails at the bar, no chalk tops at the movies, not even a sneaky snitty at the pub. Life is on ice, but every day I'm still a little older. Even the toilet paper is bland now. Mystery paper in unbranded plastic. I wondered if my boyfriend who came with the frame was real, or just a delusion crafted by loneliness. He never gave me his number or even his last name, so I wouldn't know where to find him. He vanished from Tinder as well. All I had left was my photo of Chris Hemsworth with bits stuck on him like a sexy Mr. Potato Head, a toilet paper surplus, and memories of uneven sex and that bright but evasive laugh. But only 1 week later, late at night, I heard a tapping at my bedroom window. I jolted awake. It was Max, and he looked terrible. He looked like he hadn't eaten for the entire week, and there were scratches on his face and his arms like he'd lost a tournament against cats and shrubs. "Susan," he slurred, "where else am I supposed to go?" The helpless fear in his wet eyes terrified me, and I jumped out of my bedroom and slammed the door. My phone rumbled. It was a Tinder message. "Susan, let me in." I threw my phone at the wall, but it kept buzzing with new messages. Now there was a tapping at the door and his voice behind it. "Susan, you have to let me inside. I can be whatever you want me to be, just let me in." Now the tapping became pounding, and I realized he was going to smash his way in. But at that moment, I remembered the photo. Somehow, that was the cause of it all. I scrambled for the photo frame and I ripped out the photo. I threw the frame on the floor and tore the photo into pieces, thinking of every terrible date, every creepy stranger, every man who thought I wasn't enough. The pounding stopped. There was silence. I creeped to the door, intending to peep through the eye hole. But then there was a yelp. A gentle scratching and a whimper. I turned around and looked at the photo frame on the floor. It now only had the photo it came with. A puppy with floppy ears and wet eyes. I opened the door. I still call him Max.
The Boyfriend Who Came with the Frame starred Joanna Richards as Susan and introduced Floki as Max. It was produced by Kristin Haseldine of Pink Tape Productions and written by Lombard. Follow Canberra Coronavision for more radio plays for pandemic days.